All right, so this is going to be one of the most important modules of this course. Now, the workshop formula is something that I developed many years ago through a process that I didn't even know was unraveling. In giving over 300 workshops over the last 10 years, I developed over that time awareness of what was working to create logical certainty for my audiences, and also what was not working, and also what was creating emotional certainty and what was not working in that area. And so over time, I then began to study various sales and branding, topics, and realized that I had been applying some some set principles out there that developed through this process of engaging with my audience. So what I have here today is called the workshop formula, and this formula will give you the ability to create both logical and emotional certainty for your audience, which is necessary for them to buy. Right? The only way people buy things typically is through the combination of having both logical certainty and emotional certainty. However, when it comes to presentations, most presenters lead with logical certainty and many times completely miss the emotional certainty component. We're going to talk a lot more about emotional certainty and how to convey that through our body language and tone in future modules on public speaking. However, the content of your presentation and how it's structured is extremely important here. So let's dive into this. So I highly recommend that if you haven't already read or listened to Jordan Belfort's The Way of the Wolf, that you get that book. I have a link for it here in this section. I've listened to it multiple times on Audible. It's a fantastic book on the basics of sales, right? The core principles. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about here. Anytime we open our mouths, we're selling, and especially when we're giving a presentation or workshop, we're selling people on our ideas, and then hopefully on why working with us is one of the best options they have in their lives. So to increase sales and people saying yes, we have to build rapport, trust, and credibility. We need those three things. And in that book, Jordan talks about people must be at somewhere between an 8 and a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being or 0 being no rapport. If you had a 0 rapport, that means people really hate you. But we need to get people to hopefully as close to a 10 out of 10 in the areas of rapport, trust, and credibility around you, your product, and your brand or company. Right. So make sure you go and listen to that book. Just play it in the background on your drive to work or when you're working out. Great for anyone who feels that they haven't had any formal training in sales or aren't just a natural salesperson. So let's, because in this module, I'm going to show you where in your presentations you're going to be increasing rapport, trust, and credibility through the formula. The other piece that I realized I was applying to my workshops was Donald Miller's building a story brand model. Right? He has this. This is a fantastic book as well. Highly recommend it for really crafting a really strong brand and message for your business. And there's some really basic principles here. He follows this basic elements of story, that's been passed on for ages, right? This model that there's a character. The character is your ideal client, right? That person in front of you, and they have a problem, and then they meet a guide who understands their fears, and then that guide gives them a plan that calls them to action, right? Gives them an offer that results in either comedy or tragedy. And so whether or not they choose, comedy in terms of, a great life potential, everything that you have to offer them through your solution, really depends on how you lay this out for them. So and building in rapport, trust, and credibility. So we combine both of these models into the workshop formula. So here's a breakdown of how to structure your content. So initially, when people are sitting there in your, before your presentation, I have scrolling testimonials, related to the specific problems that these people have. So, for instance, if I'm giving a class on mental health, then the testimonials are going to be around helping people with mental health challenges, right? So that's optional, but what it does is it increase trust and credibility. And so as they're sitting there, they're looking at then that's going to increase trust and credibility in an audience that likely may not have ever had any encounter with you, right? So the rapport level is really low. So the next step, I like to start all my presentations, all my workshops, big or small, with asking people why they're there, right? To help build rapport and also to establish that we have characters with a problem. Back to Donald Miller's StoryBrand model there. We want to help establish that these characters have a problem, and also that they're not alone, right? So if it's a group of less than 20 people, I'll go around and actually ask people to briefly share, why you're here, with your name, why you're here, so that I can help tailor the class to your needs, right? And I'll let them know, just so you know, in just a moment, I'll be sharing a whole lot more about myself and my journey around this topic. And so just know that this is a really safe place to share, right? So what that does is a couple of things. One, it creates a space of safety and vulnerability. You're letting them know that you're going to share. It also is a great moment to build rapport I like to get, as people are sharing, get closer to them, look them in the eye, try to memorize their name as well, so that later in the presentation I can go back and ask a question and call on that person by name. Those are more advanced techniques in presentation. If you're having any anxiety around public speaking, you're probably not going to be at a place there where you'll even remember their names. But that's also a great way to begin to feel more at ease when you start to develop more of a connection with people there in front of you. So from there, we go into our bio, and that's where we're sharing more about us, who we are, some of our credentials, and also a great place to share more of your beliefs around, your service or your industry, to help build rapport, trust, and credibility here, right? Now, we don't want to spend a lot of time really, bragging about ourselves, but it's there to quickly let people know, hey, I'm an expert in this topic, right? The next piece, then we go into a testimonial, right? And especially if you're in an industry where people may not recognize that you have authority on that topic, and that can be for various reasons, but especially there, we want to give a strong testimonial to help open the minds and beliefs of the audience. And if you are in an industry where where there may not be a connection between your solution and the topic at hand, that's a great time to say something such as, I like to start with this story of this individual that we were able to help, because, oftentimes I realize that many people may not realize that, what we do here is associated with this topic, right? So I just want to share this story so that in the beginning here is to just open your hearts and minds of what's possible, right? And as I shared tonight, everything's gonna be a whole lot more clear on why it is we were able to achieve this for this individual. So what I'd like to ask you to do is, just for tonight, if you don't mind, just go ahead and take whatever beliefs you have about what it is we do here, and just go ahead and set them aside on the ground there. And if you still want them when we're all done here, go ahead and pick them up, and you can take them with you. Otherwise, we'll gladly discard them for you. How's that sound? All right. So now what I did there is I'm asking them for permission. I'm being very direct, because that's a potential objection in their minds. This formula is also designed to handle objections. So before they, because if objections aren't handled, then they're going to continue to stay in the minds of your audience, right? So that is a key moment to help handle any potential objections there. So next we go into references, peer-reviewed, and this is where I like to share images of peer-reviewed journal articles, any book titles that the content's taken from experts in the field. And what I say is, this, just so you know, this class this class is based upon peer-reviewed research journal articles, books by experts in the field. It's not based upon my opinion. And I'm sharing my opinion, I'll let you know. But just so you know, this class is based upon the latest information out there. That's designed to increase third-party credibility, right, in that moment. It's also a great time to let people know that you're going to have additional emails and resources coming to them. So that's and what I like to say is, when I give this presentation, I realized that it's like giving information through a fire hose sometimes. And so what I did is I created a series of emails that will come to you with these various book titles, additional resources, so that you don't feel like you have to just take notes throughout the evening, and instead can just be really focused on being present in what we're sharing tonight. So it's a great way to let them know that they're going to be getting information too, so that they're not surprised as well. So from there, we then move into your why. Why do you feel compelled to speak on this topic? This is where you're going to increase rapport and emotional certainty for your audience. Now they're going to understand more of your altruistic nature and why this topic is so important to you. It should be a very strong why. Okay, and so because at this point, now this is where that character with the problem now meets a guide who understands their fear. Whatever their problem is that you want to solve, and your why. If you have a personal connection to the problem, then this is a great time to share it, because if you have a personal connection, then that also further increases the rapport and the emotional certainty, because they know that you understand, right? So from there we go into a series of stats. I like to present stats on the problem and present them very quickly. You don't want to really spend a lot of time here. The purpose of presenting the stats and presenting them quickly is to increase the pain around the topic, right? To increase the fear and the pain. And it also will increase credibility. Like if you're going through these stats quickly and you know the stats and you should have them memorized, then now you're increasing your credibility as an expert, because you know the topic and you also understand the topic, right? So key moment when they're meeting the guide. Now from there, you just increase pain and anxiety around this topic. Now you want to calm them down, right? You want to break down the problem, so that it's more manageable and seems more manageable. So you want to decrease uncertainty here. I would like to give people just a simple framework of the problem, right? To break it down more simply, but also don't make it so simple that they can not be worried about it or solve it on their own, because obviously they need you to help them solve it. But by breaking down the problem and decrease the uncertainty, you're going to increase some emotional certainty that you are this guide who's now giving them a plan. Right. So from here, now we're going into this where we're indirectly connecting them to the indirectly connecting the problem to your solution. Right. We're not outright saying like, here's how I solve this. Right. We want to have a step in between from breaking down this problem to having an indirect connection. Right. So where it's not totally clear that like how you solve it yet. This will help increase logical certainty that this problem can be solved, and here's some ideas on how it's solvable. Right. So from there, this is a great place to put a testimonial in, especially if it's connected to this step here. And I'll give you an example. I'm a chiropractor, and I give talks on neurological challenges, right, or various challenges that all have a nervous system component, but most people aren't thinking about the nervous system, right? So then what I'm doing here in this step is I'm helping people understand the nervous system and the autonomic nervous system in particular, the fight or flight stress response, and how that's involved in health, right? And so then, and this is and by the way too, people can understand the stress response. Everyone's living in stress and fight or flight these days. So it's a great connection point. That's why I have a lightning bolt here, because that's a key moment to create some, turn on some light bulbs, and so people are having some aha moments. So that's then a great place to put a testimonial that is hopefully related to this piece here in some way. So if I'm giving a class on, as I mentioned, then I'm going to talk about someone who was in major fight or flight, and what their testing looked like, and then what happened when they were under my care, right? And so I'm not going to spend a ton of time there. It's just more of just to share the story quickly, to create now some more trust, credibility, and emotional certainty, right? Here we're creating logical certainty. That's necessary for logical certainty. Here we're creating more emotional certainty because it's associated, there's third party. This is someone else that had a similar problem, and they had a great resolution of the problem. So then from there, we want to provide data supporting this indirect connection to the problem. So this is going to create logical certainty. So this is about providing some research supporting, so for instance, if I'm giving a class on say mental health, then here I'm now showing research showing that people with anxiety and depression have autonomic nervous system problems. They have problems with their fight or flight stress response. They're stuck in a stress response. That's what the research shows. So now I've created this link here. Well, one, this talking about the nervous system, which is an indirect link because people don't realize that that's part of my solution yet. And then here we're creating the third-party credibility to increase logical certainty, right? Now they know that people with these challenges, people just like them, have problems with their nervous system. So now the next step is now to make the direct connection to the problem and really solidify the logical certainty. That's why, and this is a really important piece here, right? These are moments where you have to have tons of convey a ton of emotional certainty at the same time too, right? Where your body language is one of expert status, and that here's what the research says, right, in this area. So then that's where I'm helping people understand now, what do I do? How do I help solve these problems? Where do I fit in? So this is continuing to give them now a plan, now a more solid plan. They're beginning to understand where you come in as the guide. And then perfect spot for a testimonial, again, to just add more emotional certainty. And then now, just as we did before, this is going to be now third-party data research supporting your specific solution, right? So it's not just your word for it. It's now there's data, there's research that's supporting your solution for their problem, which is now adding more logical certainty. Now, this is a moment here where you don't want to just bore people to death. People don't want logical certainty thrown down their face, right? If you're an analytical type, you're likely going to spend way too much time here and here, and maybe here, maybe here. Realize that that's just there to provide the support logically that people need, that this all makes sense, right? And so that their emotional certainty that they're feeling really is validated by the logical connection, right? So from there, we should have a really big emotional testimonial, hopefully a video if you have one, from a very happy client with problem, similar to these characters that was solved with your plan, right? And so then that's when the close and the offer comes, and that's where the emotional certainty really has to be dialed in with a very solid steps with your close. And in the Mastering the Close training, you're going to get those solid steps. There's essential elements of a close that you have to have there that helps the most people, the highest percentages of people say yes. So you give them the plan that's going to result in either that comedy or tragedy, and that really depends upon how you paint that picture for them. What does it look like, for them to work with you? They should leave here feeling, and I didn't say knowing. They should be feeling and believing, because it's emotional. They should be feeling and believing that you are the absolutely, and not just your service, because if they don't believe that you're the one, they could go to someone else for the service. Absolutely believing that you and your service and your company are the absolute best next step in their lives. Right? So we're going to talk a whole lot more about that in the sections on tonality and public speaking, and then even more so in mastering the close. So start creating your workshop content around this formula. Okay, I'm going to give you you have a template available, which you can take that PowerPoint or Keynote template and then just kind of plug in your slides in various areas to match this formula here. All right, good luck.